everyone, it's Haynes, and in today's video we are going to be doing the commentary / analysis for episode 22 or episode 100 of Miraculous Ladybug season 4, Ephemeral. Before I say anything else, as always, I'm about to spoil the whole episode for you, so please check the description box for places where you can go and watch it, but please know those links will eventually expire as the videos get taken down for copyright. So, going into this, I definitely was not okay. I wasn't ready. I did film a reaction video, but honestly most of the reaction is me just sat at my desk looking kind of scared, so I'm not sure if I'm going to re-upload it. I'll have a look at the footage afterwards. I haven't rewatched it back, so I don't know. So I was feeling quite scared for most of the episode, and then I was disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I thought this episode had some wonderful moments in it, and I really enjoyed those wonderful moments. But I definitely didn't like the direction the episode went in. Is this maybe my own fault for expecting something different, expecting more? Yeah, we could definitely argue that. However, I just feel, and I'll talk about this more a bit later on in the video, and a lot of people I think are gonna feel the same way as me, is that I don't mind time travel being used in the episode, and I went in knowing there was going to be time travel because there was no way they could have won otherwise without it. I wasn't that bothered about that, but I don't like it when there's absolutely no consequences, and I feel like we've been building up to a time travel episode that's going to have consequences. We had Oblivio, but the only consequence, there was a picture of a kiss, don't know how it happened. It was just that obviously we know what happened, we're talking about they don't know how it happens. Then we had Cat Blank, everything was fine, the world was restored, and whilst Marinette had no idea what happened to lead to Cat Noir getting akumatized, she still remembered and she was traumatized as a result, and as a result of that trauma it's led her to be treating Cat Noir the way she has been doing this season. So even though she didn't understand how it happened, there were consequences because of Cat Blank, and she still hasn't told him about it. What are the consequences from this episode? None. I really feel like with Miraculous, I love the show. This is coming from a place of love. I don't hate the show. This is my favourite TV show. It's why I make videos on it, because I genuinely love it. I'm a 25-year-old who loves a show for 8 to 10-year-olds. I don't care anymore. I genuinely love the show. This isn't coming from a place of hate, but I do feel, I'm not one of these people, but I do feel there's a good chunk of people who do watch Miraculous who are getting sick and tired of them dragging out this identity reveal for as long as physically possible. I get, you know, the anticipation, the build-up. That can be fun to watch in other TV shows. It's not just Miraculous where it's just been like a will they won't they TV show. I completely understand. But with the way Miraculous is, I just feel like it's getting to a point that even if they don't find out their identities yet and they don't get together yet, something else has to happen to get us moving towards that. What that thing would be, I'm not sure exactly. But what I was really hoping for was a full reveal, but then they travel back in time, but Marinette still remembers, so there would be a consequence. But there was no consequences. Luka doesn't even remember what happened, and I'm not sure Zas remembers what happened either, because he wasn't sure what the situation was to begin with when Luka went to him. So there were 0 consequences. So really this episode was technically pointless. You know what I mean? At least with Oblivio and Cat Blank there were some consequences, so it didn't render the episode pointless. So this was a good episode, but you know what, do you see what I'm saying? I don't want to come off like, because I do love the show so much. I'm just worried, okay, because literally this episode was like, okay, what was the point of that? Like, I don't speak French, I watched the episode live in French, but I speak enough French that I could understand what was going on. And I finished the episode and I was like, okay. So what was the point of that? Answer, no point. No point at all. Hey besties, me again. I'm in a different place now. I came somewhere else to edit. But I just want to say, I understand. I went into this knowing it was a what if episode, and I also went into the episode being fully confident there was going to be time travel. I said in my live stream yesterday that I would bet on it. I stand by that. I understand it was still a what if episode, but I was expecting there to be consequences. And there was none, so I don't want anyone saying, oh, you knew it was a what if episode. Yeah, I did know it was a what if episode, but I was still expecting some consequences. Sorry, I just forgot to say that in the video. Bye. So yeah, I'm gonna give this episode, despite that, an 8 out of 10. I did really enjoy it. It was lovely, but I do have some fundamental problems with it, which we're gonna discuss now. And I feel like, again, like with some of the episodes this season, opinion is going to be really split in the fandom. I just ask, I mean, you're here for my opinion, obviously. I mean, why are you watching this video if you don't value my opinion? But let me just say, I call you besties, and I call you besties for a reason, because I do truly value you all like my friends. That being said, I'm sorry if you haven't replied to your comment yet on the video I just uploaded about Gabriel Agrest. I'm not having a fun time right now. I'll reply to them all later. Don't worry if I haven't replied yet. So I do call you besties because I value you like a best friend. And best friends don't always agree with other people's opinions, but best friends always respect other people's opinions. So that's what I will ask you to do. If you disagree with me, that's fine. If you disagree with me on some things, not all the things, that's also fine. I just ask you to please be respectful. So the first point. Gabriel is heading to this event for his own fashion label. There's also going to be an event about his wife, technically, because they say in the episode the collection is like in memory of his wife, whatever the exact words they were using. Yet he's like, oh no, wait, I have to go and akumatize someone. He doesn't have to akumatize everyone, surely to God. There are so many people in Paris with all these emotions that he can't physically akumatize everyone. This event was extremely important, and he was like, Adrian, you have to go and represent me. I understand Adrian is a representation of the brand, he's a Gabriel model, I 100% get it, and he's also the founder and head designer, the CEO's son, whatever we want to call Gabriel. But the boy is a model, he's not a fashion designer, he can't talk about the inspirations behind each of the pieces. What on earth does Adrian know about fashion? Not much, considering the way he dresses. You know what I mean? And he also sleeps in his clothes. That was weird as well. We'll get onto that later. So I'm like, you don't have to akumatize everyone. I genuinely thought that they were maybe making Adrian attend this conference and he was going to akumatize someone at the same time, because he was suspicious that Adrian was Cat Noir. So he was like, if I make him do this event, he can't transform, because obviously everyone will see on telly him leaving and then Cat Noir suddenly appears. So, and I was also pretty disappointed with the way he worked out who Adrian was, to be honest. So it was a bit wishy-washy. And also in the car we had the section with the ring. Now I know a lot of people would say, ooh, Sentimonster theory, and I do believe Adrian is a Sentimonster. But I'm not 100% sure. In this episode it was showing that. Like, Gabriel was pretty forceful with what he was saying, and as we know, Adrian is just very obedient even before this ring thing started. I'm just kind of sus about it because this hasn't happened in previous seasons. We got it in Mega Leech and now in this episode twice, and we're probably going to get it in episode 9. It hasn't happened in any other episode. Ever, I'm pretty sure. So I am a bit sus about it, to be honest. Like, yeah, maybe you could argue it, maybe, but also what are the chances of Felix stealing the rings and him not getting the one that Adrian's Amok is in? Like, what are the chances? 50%, like, you know what I mean? So like, arguably Felix could have the Amok and could be controlling Adrian. Do you know what I mean? I'm just not sure the rings are it. And again, at the conference you could say, well, Adrian stayed, he didn't go and transform. In my opinion, it looks like he wanted to stay, but then Natalie in his earpiece was like, Adrian, you need to do this for your dad. Just hang tight. I know there's a Dakuma attack, but just hang tight. And he did, because of Natalie. You know what I mean? And then later on down in the murder basement, when he was being akumatized, I think at that point Adrian had just kind of given up. He wasn't even going to try and break free. I'm not 100% sure if this was necessarily because of the ring. Like I said, it's only been introduced this season. We saw it twice in this episode, and then we also saw it in Mega Leech. I feel like it's a red herring being done to throw us all. Like, I do think Adrian is a Sentimonster, but I don't know. I don't know, I think it's weird. You know, like, he could have done it in Glaciator 2 when they had that conversation if he wanted to control Adrian. I don't feel like Adrian's actions are matching up with it because Adrian is so obedient already towards his father. But that's just my opinion, I could totally be wrong. Obviously. So then we have the Lucky Charm. Like, why didn't it just give her a ladder? I don't know, I guess because he needed the ladder to be easily portable and to have a strong base, like on a fire truck. Alright, but then who was driving the fire truck, because it moved around pretty easily? These are the questions we need to be asking about this episode, people. And I was also extremely disappointed we didn't get to see them throw the Lucky Charm into the air. There were 9 heroes there, including Kim, and we all saw that pound it last night. Kim's hands are huge in comparison to everyone else. He could have thrown it in the air single-handedly. Why didn't we get to see it? I am so sad. So sad. So sad. So now let's talk about the sewers scene. So Ladybug was right. As I was watching the episode back with the subtitles, I was like, why can't he just go and find Cat Noir and be like, hey, you need to tell me your identity? Why does he have to go through Ladybug? Like, I don't know. Why can't he just do that? Why can't he just go over to him at the end of the next Akuma battle and be like, bestie, listen, we're gonna go and get a Starbucks because I need to know who you are. Why does Ladybug have to ask him? Is it because Suhan doesn't believe Cat Noir trusts him? I can understand that after what happened in Furious Fu. But I'm sure if Ladybug spoke to Cat Noir first and was like, hey, you're gonna have to tell him. Because I do believe someone other than Luka needs to know what's going on, because I'm not sure Luka knows what's going on with the situation. Speaking of Luka, when the scene first started, I was a bit unsure whether Luka had told Marinette that he knew, and I think it's quite obvious he didn't know. If he had told her that he knew who she was, at the very least, they would have been stood together, de-transformed in the sewers, talking together. And then he probably also would have said, oh hey, by the way, I also know who Cat Noir is, don't worry, I'll just go and tell Suhan now. Why did they have to go through this whole operation when Luka already knew? Why didn't he just tell Ladybug in that moment? Be like, I already know, it's okay, we don't have to do this complicated plan where we sync our watches, you go up to the Eiffel Tower, beg him to tell you, and then you decide not to do anything about it. I don't understand. Like, at the minute I'm also struggling to see the point in Luka finding out if he's not going to do something with that information when the situation calls for it. And this situation did call for it. It's like, what was the point of what happened in Wishmaker? What was the point? I don't know. I mean, honestly, at this point I'm like, this whole episode was Luka's fault. Like, if Luka had just been like, hey, I know, this episode wouldn't have needed to happen. I don't know. Honestly, that's how I feel about this episode. I don't know how I feel about this episode. So now let's talk about the scene on the Eiffel Tower where they reveal themselves. It was such a heartfelt scene, and then he said, I'm Adrian Agreste, and she just started laughing. I was like, Marinette, this is not the time. I was like, this is so lovely. And then as soon as Marinette started laughing, I was just like, thanks for ruining it, bestie. Thank you. Thank you, Marinette. However, before that part happened, Ladybug was very sweet towards Cat Noir. It was a very nice scene. I really enjoyed the scene for the most part. Actually, no, I really did enjoy the scene. It was really sweet. Like, she was right. Like, if something happens to us, we need to know who the other person is. And I would agree. Like, I understand at some point it is kind of like, if one of us gets akumatized, then they'll betray the other. Okay, yeah, I get it. But I just feel like at this point it is kind of becoming detrimental to their partnership if they don't know. But Adrian was lovely in the scene. I did kind of feel so bad for him. I thought he might have been a bit more angry that the fact she was like, no, I don't want to do it, but this is Adrian, who is made out of sunshine, so of course he's like that. Now, this next section with the identity stuff, I did have a lot of issues with it. As much as I do find it kind of fun to see Adrian being more Cat Noir out in public as Adrian, I guess. To me, I feel like Adrian's true personality lies somewhere between who he is as Adrian and who he is as Cat Noir. Those are two extremes of his personality, and he is somewhere in the middle as like a really nice gentleman as Adrian, but also who is cheeky and funny. Not cringy though, because this was cringe. It was funny at first, but when I watched it back I was like, no, stop. Like, and it was also obvious in this episode, as we saw with Tiki and Marinette immediately after the reveal, that Marinette quite clearly thinks of herself as two different people, as Marinette and Ladybug. And we saw that in Glaciator 2 as well, when she called Cat Noir over to practice her confession on him. She's like, he's in love with Ladybug. Even though Marinette is aware that is her, to her, she has completely separated those two identities. And yeah, she finds out that Adrian is Cat Noir, but she's like, but he's not in love with me, he's in love with Ladybug. And honestly, like I said, it was great to see Adrian act like this for a change. I couldn't help but feel that it was kind of awkward and that it didn't feel right, and Marinette was quite clearly uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. However, then we had that scene on the boat with Luka, and he was like, when you look at Adrian, you don't have the same song. I'm not really sure what that means exactly, because I've never understood this song thing with Luka, like in Wishmaker. Like, what on earth? What on earth was that about? But like, to me it meant like, your feelings towards Adrian have changed, now you know he is Cat Noir, is essentially what he was saying. However, then he was kind of talking around the issue. He wasn't being explicit with what he was saying, because Marinette doesn't know yet that he knows she's Ladybug. But he was like, I loved that person more when I found out all these other things about them. It let me see them as a fuller person. And after he says that, Marinette smiles and she has a realization, okay, I'm just seeing a different side to Adrian that I didn't really get to experience before. I need to appreciate all sides of him, which I could get behind, and she could then at that point see Adrian in a different light and kind of fall for him all over again. And I've always hoped that when the identity reveal would happen, is that they wouldn't get together immediately, and that they would have a few episodes for both of them to really think through whether they actually had feelings for the other person or not, because this is a huge thing to them. And I guess we technically got that. We saw them fight. Who did we see them fight? The lollipop monster thing. We got to see them fight Siren again, as well as the mime again. So that would have been the few episodes. I would assume those events didn't all happen within the same day. I would assume those were at least 3 separate days, and we don't know how many days were in between that. So that did give Marinette the time to start to consider Cat Noir differently, and also to consider Adrian differently, which I was happy about. But again, I don't know, this whole thing with Adrian, it made me feel uncomfortable and awkward, because Marinette seemed to feel that way as well. Do you know what I mean? And then we also had Adrian, as soon as he found out, he hugged Marinette and said, I'm so happy it's someone I admire and love, and you're one of my best friends. Honestly, I would debate whether or not they're best friends, since they barely speak to each other as Marinette and Adrian, but that's another argument for another day. I feel like his reaction wasn't correct, because again, I feel like Adrian would also need the same grace period to come to terms with Marinette of all people is Ladybug, because she is pretty different. I know, to me, the way Marinette acts around like Alia and Milan and Julika and stuff, and even Chloe, is more Ladybug-like, but the way she acts around Adrian is so different that I was just a bit like, I don't know. That's why I feel like we need to see in real time in the show, within like 3 episodes, let's say they do find out their identities for good in the season 4 finale. I then feel like episodes 1, 2 and 3 of season 5 should be them getting used to this new dynamic between them, because things have changed between them. You know what I mean? So I was a bit like, it just didn't feel right to me, you know what I mean? It didn't feel right. As someone who is a romance writer, if you don't know, I'm a published author, that's what I specialise in. I specialise in writing romance, relationships and dialogue. Those are my specialities. I was a bit like, this isn't it. It didn't feel right. It just didn't. Yeah, that's what I have to say about it. So then we move on to how Daddy Agrest finds out who Adrian is. And it was all because he is on the phone and says, "Good night, my lady." That was it. I am very disappointed. I think the best theory I heard, I didn't come up with this theory, I don't know who did, but I've seen it loads in the comments, where they got suspicious about who could be Cat Noir, so they did this Akuma thinking it could be Adrian. They didn't see Cat Noir turn up and Adrian stayed where he was. I think that could be reasonable. Plus as well, in Optigami, we saw that Gabriel and Natalie had realised that all of these other Miraculous holders were all either in the same class as Adrian or were friends with him outside class, like Luka and Kagami. So they'd worked out they all knew Adrian. So using that information, they then used Adrian to lure all of them to this fashion event so they could immobilise all the known holders. They were getting somewhere with that, so why haven't they taken that and run with it a bit? They weren't suspicious of Adrian in that episode, so why haven't they, between episode 13 and episode 22, 9 episodes, why haven't they got suspicious of him? I don't know, and like there are so many instances where Gabriel could have gone to his son's room and see he wasn't there when he should have been. And how would he have got out? Well, the window's open and he hasn't left through the front door, so he's quite clearly Cat Noir because that garden wall would have killed him if he tried to jump out of his window. You know what I mean? Like, out of all the ways for him to find out that was the way, I am a bit annoyed about it, I'll be honest. I'm just like, really, that's... I know it got reversed, so it technically doesn't matter anymore, but I was just a bit like, really? After all this time, that's how he finds out? He hears Adrian saying goodnight to his girlfriend? Like, it could have just been a fun and cute nickname. Like, what were you gonna do if he went downstairs into the murder basement, turned out he wasn't actually Cat Noir, or just him and his girlfriend like to sometimes pretend they're Cat Noir and Ladybug because they think their nicknames are cute? What were you gonna do then? Yeah, I'm surprised Natalie wasn't there to figure it out though. I'm proud of him for working out himself, but you know what I mean? Like, all of this build up and suspense to him walking in on his son saying goodnight, my lady, and he was like, I've cracked it! It's the two of them. I just... It just wasn't... It wasn't it. It left me feeling disappointed and unfulfilled, the fact that that's the way he found out. And I'm also disappointed we didn't get to see Adrian's pyjamas. Why does he sleep fully clothed? I don't know. Okay. However, we did get a useful timestamp in the episode. Gabriel said it's been 100 weeks since your mother went missing. And we found out in Felix last season it has been 52 weeks. It's been a whole year, there are 52 weeks in a year. So that means between Felix and episode 22 it has been 52 weeks, but between the start of the show and Felix it has been less than 52 weeks because she went missing before the start of the show. So seasons 1, 2 and 3 took place within the span of, let's say, 45 weeks. And then from Felix to Ephemeral, it's been a year? Less than a year? Like 3 weeks less than a year? 4 weeks less than a year? 4 weeks less than a year? No, I'm bad at maths, but you know what I mean? It's almost been a whole year and no one's had a birthday. Or Christmas. Or any other kind of event. I'm pretty sure the time in Miraculous doesn't actually make sense. And when I say the time in Miraculous, I mean the calendar year time, not the other kind of time, which is what we're about to talk about. But before we do, oh my god, Plague. Poor baby, I want to give him a hug too. Are you okay? You okay? Oh, so sad, so sad. However, that scene in general, it was such a short-lived scene. I thought we were going to get a bit more from that scene because Adrian didn't even seem that upset. He was like, oh my god, it's my mum. Oh my god, it's my dad. Oh my god, I'm akumatized now. Oh well, I'll just give up. I don't really... I was expecting more of an emotional reaction from him. You've just found your mum, who you think is dead because you had a funeral for her in the basement that you didn't even know that part of the house existed. You just found her. I don't know, I feel like I would have been crying, and then you turn around and see your dad is Hawkmoth. I would have started crying even harder. The emotions in this episode, I just don't feel like they were correct. Not that I'm the one to tell people how to feel, but I'm going to be the one to tell people how to feel. The emotions were incorrect in this episode. It was just... yeah, I just felt the scene was very short-lived. It could have done with a bit more emotion to it. It should have been a lot more emotionally charged. You just found out who your dad is. Like, the Cat Blank scene where he found out who his dad was so much more emotionally charged in comparison. And it was a lot shorter before he gets akumatized, you know what I mean? I don't know. However, again, this was like the second Sentimonster scene with the ring. But again, Adrian was akumatized, and yes, you can break free of an akuma. Chloe's done it, Nino's done it, and Ali has done it as well. So it is possible, but we could argue he was like turning the ring to be like, I'm akumatizing you, and no, you can't break free because of my ring. You will stay akumatized and get those things, which I guess could be the argument for why Adrian didn't try to break out of it when he saw Ladybug and Marinette in the movie theatre later. But I don't know, I think maybe at that point we could also argue he had given up. I'm trying to see the sentimental argument from all sides, because whilst I do believe the argument, I know not everyone does. So I am trying to be like the devil's advocate here, going back and forth between the two possibilities. So whilst I definitely think the ring could mean that, we've only seen that ring action this season. It seems a bit weird just to bring it in this season. If he really was a sentient monster, they really should have started doing this in season 2, since the Peacock Miraculous wasn't used in season 1, so I'm not that bothered by it being all the way back in season 1. So I'm a bit like, what? But then again with Felix, like, he had a 50% chance of taking the ring Adrian's and Mucky's attached to. I don't know, I'm on the fence about the ring confirming he's a sentient monster. I do believe Adrian is a sentient monster, but I'm not sure this was the absolute proof. I'll say that, okay? I'm on the fence, alright? Just in general, I think the emotions, in not just this scene, but just in general in the episode, they didn't seem correct to me. That seems a bit of a weird sentence to say, but I stand by that statement. Shadow Cat Daddy with purple eyes was 100% cursed. I am extremely happy we didn't get to see him say claws out, because at that point I would have been crying. I didn't actually cry. I was very, very close. I had tears in my eyes. I was on the verge, but then I felt so disappointed that I couldn't shed a tear. Maybe I'll cry for the finale, because hopefully the finale will have some lasting consequences. Luka was absolutely hilarious breaking into the bakery. Not only did he break in, but he probably nearly broke some bones himself. No one breaks any bones in this show, and they really should be doing with the amount of tumbles they all have. And it was very interesting. So he was up in Marinette's room with the miracle box talking to the Kwamis, and I can't remember if it was Bark or Sass or another Kwami altogether, said that when you make this wish, the whole world gets destroyed and then rebuilt to accommodate this wish. And first of all, I have a couple of questions. I guess we don't know a lot about the wish. I literally thought it was going to be very easy, no one would notice. So for example, if Gabriel was going to bring back Emily, he would just have to sacrifice a person in exchange for her life, because, you know, to keep things equal, to keep things in balance. I didn't realise it would destroy everything. That's a revelation. So I guess we really can't see the wish be made in the show. Alright. Second of all though, would that mean everyone's memories get wiped if we destroy and then rebuild it immediately? What effect would that have on people's memories? Because memories seem to be a central conceit of Miraculous, so I feel like, I don't know, maybe I should tweet Thomas Astruck. He more than likely won't reply, but I'd like to know if anyone's asked him before, if you know the answer to this. If that is the case, do people retain memories? Will they remember what happened? Or no? You know what I mean? I just thought it was interesting, but I'm not really sure. However, speaking of memory, this is the point of the episode where I got really disappointed, because first of all, I was really surprised a lot of that scene in the cinema happened. So Miraculous has the warning of fantasy violence, in that violence is okay to happen in the show, especially a show for children, as long as they are in fantasy outfits. It's quite clear these are superheroes doing these stunts. However, when she de-transformed, Hawkmoth grabbed her, like, was it by like the hair or whatever, by her neck, I'm not even sure now, but he grabbed her and picked her up, and then at one point threw her off. Like, that's not okay to show on television for children, really, because yeah, whilst he was in a superhero outfit, she wasn't in a superhero outfit for this point. So bit confused about that, but anyway, what I wanted was for Marinette to still remember. That's why I was hoping for Bunnix to come, then she could have gone through the burrow and still remembered, gone through the burrow into the past and changed things, but still remember. But that didn't happen. This is a point of the episode where I was disappointed and frustrated because of the lack of consequences, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and again at this point, after Adrian had seen his dad do this, maybe he should have broken out of the Akuma, but again, if he was a sentient monster and being controlled by the ring, he wouldn't have done that. We could argue that. I mean, I don't know if I'd seen my boyfriend be hurt by anyone really, whether it was my parent or otherwise. I would be pretty annoyed immediately and, you know, do something about it instead of just stay there. I'm not sure. However, I did think it was cool getting to see the dinosaur and Joan of Arc using the Ladybug Miraculous. That was really cool when Zas went back. However, I just have to say, they showed the satellite like little animation thing, and it had some like different country identifying markers, like it had an igloo, presumably like the North Pole or something. But then it also had a flag I'm pretty sure is offensive representing Japan, because wasn't it like the flag they used during the Second World War to like terrorize Korea and other countries? Isn't that offensive? I'm not Japanese or Korean or just Asian in general, but a couple of years ago on television, these two presenters called Ant and Dec, if you're not from the UK you won't know who they are, but they wore bandanas on their head with that flag on, and they got absolutely slated for it because it's offensive. Maybe it's not deemed as offensive in France, but I just thought I'd point it out. Like, it wasn't a completely clear drawing, it was like a cartoon drawing version of it, but I was like, is that allowed? I didn't think it was. But yeah, and also that satellite part. What? What even was that? What a weird way to solve it. I don't even fully understand it. Didn't particularly enjoy it. Maybe it's a me problem, probably is a me problem, but it was just a bit like, of all the ways to solve the situation, you're gonna fly into space and reconfigure one of the satellites that just happens to be above France? I'm just kind of frustrated. I'm not even 100% sure what to say about this episode because I'm frustrated with it. Maybe this is my own fault for having my expectations so high. And I say this with the utmost peace and love ever. But I was expecting something better for the 100th episode. I don't think it was a bad episode, but I do feel like it was all over the place and the emotions just didn't seem right. I love Miraculous. I'm not saying this because I hate the show. You all know I love Miraculous. But it was frustrating because first of all Marinette didn't remember, and we need there to be some consequences soon because this show, we keep taking one step forward then taking 5 steps back every single episode it seems like. So we don't get anywhere ever because we're just always going backwards. We're getting further and further away from them being some plot progression, which I really do feel like we need. The last time we got it was in Wishmaker, but Luka didn't even say anything in this episode when this episode was quite clearly the episode to say something. Like, I don't know. I was expecting more for the 100th episode. If this wasn't the 100th episode, if this had been episode 21, I don't think I would have been as disappointed, but just the satellite thing, like what? I understand there were consequences from Sass using the power without a holder because he could go back a lot further than Luka because he hadn't done the second chance. Get that completely. But satellites? How would that have worked anyway? I don't understand. I physically don't understand. However, I really enjoyed that part anyway because the transformation, the Cosmobug and Astro Cats, they were absolutely amazing. So now let's talk about that final scene with Suhan. And whilst I think Ladybug is definitely correct in that she doesn't need to know because it's not dangerous, because I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of like, yeah, it is really dangerous for her to know, but also at the same time, I really feel like she does need to know so they can get somewhere. They are no closer to defeating Shadow Moth. The closest they got was in the Collector, and after that nothing has really happened really since, I guess, Heroes Day and Miracle Queen. Nothing's really happened in terms of getting close to him and getting his Miraculous. So I am just a bit like, when are we gonna get there? Hopefully this season finale, but I don't know, that's kind of what I thought they were going to use Alia for. Get Alia to use her like investigative skills to try and work out who he could be. And she hasn't been doing that. I guess she technically has been doing that now. She's like Rena Furtive and is like a spy. But yeah, but either way, Suhan definitely needs to know who Cat Noir is. If Ladybug doesn't know, then Suhan definitely needs to know. And he still didn't find out. So really, what was the point of this episode? Because technically nothing happened other than they did an Akuma battle without Cat Noir, which just reaffirms to Ladybug they don't even need Cat Noir at all, and he's not that important anymore because they could do it without him. Would it have been easier with him? Yeah. Because like if you think about it, the only part of the episode that happened was Adrian going to the conference, Hawkmoth akumatizing Bob, the Akuma battle happening, and then meeting on the Eiffel Tower. That's the only part of the episode that remained the same until Suhan came. Oh, and obviously the bit in the sewers with Suhan and Luka. I am frustrated. It was a good episode, I love some of the moments, but I feel like the part between Adrian and Marinette at school and then their reveal could be arguably just kind of disingenuous with their feelings. I don't know. I just really so badly wanted her to find out who he was and remember. Because we need to be moving somewhere with it, you know what I mean? I am a bit sad, honestly. I'm not sure if my thoughts are correct. I know it's just my opinion. I don't know if people are going to agree with me. I did like the episode. It sounds weird to say I like the episode when I feel like I've just criticised it for half an hour or however long this video is going to be. But I definitely have mixed feelings towards it, you know? Because on one hand I'm like, Suhan is right, you need to know who the other people are. But on the other hand, I'm like, it looks like every single time you find out who the other person is, bad things happen. Honestly, I feel like this episode was like Thomas Astruck and all the writers saying to all the fans, all the Miraculous, is that the identity reveal is not going to happen until Hawkmoth has been defeated. Because until that happens, one of them's going to get akumatized and betray the other one. That's what I think this episode was saying to us, is that there's going to be no lasting consequences of anyone remembering anything until they get rid of Gabriel. I think. Maybe that'll happen this season finale. That's what I think they were trying to say. Like, no lasting consequences until Gabriel is gone. Because we've had several instances now of where they get together, but then the world ends. Can you imagine? These two teenagers dating equals the end of the world, apparently, because of one guy obsessed with his wife who is dying. I don't know. What did you think of the episode? Maybe I'll change my mind by the time I finish editing it. But right now I am very much on the fence about this episode. I did think it was good, but I did come away feeling mixed about it and feeling somewhat disappointed about it. Is that my own fault for putting my expectations too high? Maybe. But I feel like we were all expecting a lot from the 100th episode. And I'm not sure I agree with all the decisions taken in this episode as a writer myself. Obviously Thomas Astruck and everyone else on the team knows what's going to happen in the rest of the season. Obviously I do not. Maybe I'll change my mind on Ephemeral when we see the rest of the season. But right now I was hoping episode 100 would have some impact, would have some lasting consequences. And we got absolutely zero lasting consequences. Because Adrian doesn't remember, Marinette doesn't remember, Gabriel doesn't remember, Suhan has no idea what's going on, Luke doesn't remember, and I'm pretty sure Zas doesn't remember either. Without the risk of sounding really mean, because I don't want to be mean about my favourite TV show. But it did largely seem like it was a pointless episode. It was cute getting to see Adrian and Marinette act like that with each other, but yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know what you think, because right now I'm just feeling so confused. So what do you think about the Sentimonster stuff? I'm a bit on the fence about that. I'm on the fence about that. What did you think about Adrian and Marinette and their reveals? And the lasting consequences, what do you think? I think this episode is just a message to everyone saying, hey, they're not going to get together. We're getting no proper identity reveal until Gabriel is gone. That's what I think they were trying to say to us. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? I'd love to know, because I am confusion right now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!